Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, my ongoing series where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way to 2022 and review them. And we're back to the TV show after taking a slight minor break to talk about the Peter Cushing movies in between Season 3 and Season 4. Now we're back to Season 4, William Hartnell's final season. Patrick Truckman's first. And we start off with the first episode of Season 4, which is another missing episode. But, yeah, we still kind of need to talk about it. And this is really going to be the frustrating thing about Season 4, because I think this is the only season where every single serial has at least one of its parts that is missing. So, in a way, all of Season 4 is missing, aside from like a few random parts here and there. It's gonna be very, really difficult to talk about, but it is what it is. We gotta talk about it anyway. And the Smugglers, apparently that's Annika Will's favorite episode that she's done on Doctor Who. Favorite story, I should say. Wish I could say the same. Like, for a lot of the times with these missing episodes, I can kind of see why they're missing. Like, a lot of those missing episodes weren't particularly good. I mean, I've talked endlessly about how much I despise the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. Did not like the Savages at all. And also the Reign of Terror. I talked about that one. Not the biggest fan of the Mythmakers, but I don't dislike it as much as the other ones I just mentioned. A lot of these missing episodes weren't very good. In my opinion, at least. That's just my opinion. But, yeah, this one doesn't really do much of anything for me. Like, it's another one of those stories, not quite as extreme as the Massacre, but it's another story of, like, who did they make this for? Why did they make this? Now, granted, I will say this, it's a better written story than the Massacre. I'll say that. But, overall, like, it's, it's a pirate story that, just doesn't really... There's nothing much I like about it. First of all, let's just start with the opening scene. I like the opening scene in the TARDIS with the Doctor furious about Ben and Polly just entered his TARDIS without him knowing about it while he was taking off. And now that there's just like, he can't take them back home even if he wanted to. But at least, the Doctor's got some company now. So that's it. He doesn't have to travel alone, especially after Dodo decided to leave, unceremoniously if I might add. Sort of tries to replicate the Ian and Barbara dynamic, where they never wanted to be companions. They were just unwilling companions that just happened to stumble onto the TARDIS while the Doctor was taking off, and now they're companions of the Doctor, not necessarily by choice. Now, obviously, I think it's done a slightly better character-wise than the Ian and Barbara one. I still prefer that episode greatly to this one, but it's a great, I suppose, nod to the first companions. And remember, this is still like Season 4. Like, this isn't like they're getting nostalgia for something that happened 10 years ago. No, this is still Season 4. This is still the original run of William Hartnell. But overall, like I said, The Smugglers, not really one of my favorites. I do like the fact that, in a cruel, ironic twist of fate, there's a lot of violent scenes in this story, a lot of stabbing and fight scenes that were cut out of, I think it was the Australian broadcast, because certain different, and I'm never really 100% sure on that, but like, because certain ratings for television show and sort of appropriating to certain ages is different in Australia. When they sent the original episodes to Australia television to broadcast it on BBC, on Australian BBC networks or just Australian networks, they cut out a lot of the scenes with the violence to make it more appropriate to younger viewers. And then several years later, after the BBC threw those episodes out completely, those scenes of violence that were cut out from the originals by the Australian television are the only clips from those episodes that survive. It's a really, like I said, it's a cruel, ironic twist of fate. But yeah, the only scenes that still remain from this episode and another episode we are going to talk about later are the scenes of violence, of the stabbing, of the fight scenes between the pirates and some of the other people in the story. But you know, I'm getting really kind of caught up on this, and you can kind of tell that I really don't want to talk about this episode too much. The villain has an intimidating voice, intimidating name, and I like his introduction, and you know, just the whole, he's got a pike instead of a hand, so that's why his name is Captain Samuel Pike, and they kind of build him up to be this big, known character. They even end the episode with introducing his name as one of the cliffhangers, to make you think that he's a big, major historical figure. Overall, he's just a traditional, generic, human historical villain in Doctor Who. There really isn't much to say about him. I like the spy character that was in this episode. Didn't really much care for the Squire character or the people in the bar that the Doctor and friends stayed in. I like Ben and Polly's reactions to where they landed, but overall, like, it's a very generic, forgettable story, in my opinion. And again, I don't want to trash on this story too much, because, like I said, it's Annika Will's favorite. Annika Will's obviously played Polly in this era of Doctor Who, but it's like, there's not much in this episode that I find very relatable to me. I'm sorry. There's not much else I like about this episode. And honestly, I just can't wait to get this review over so I can talk about an episode I actually legitimately like. So I think we'll wrap up with this review by saying that. Very generic, very formulaic, I should say. Very forgettable story with very forgettable characters and a not so memorable villain. Even though the interactions of the Doctor and his new unwilling companions are pretty good. I like those scenes. But overall, yeah, it's another meh episode that somehow comes at the beginning of a season. Not a great way to open a season, I would say. But, you know, it is what it is. Thankfully, the next episode is far superior to this one. So let's just wrap up this review and get to that one. So, yeah. Doctor Who and the Smugglers. This is my review on it. I don't know what else to tell you. Goodbye. Hi there. Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.